65 battle bombers come into Bradley Field, Connecticut from Europe with more than 1,000 veterans of the Continental Air War. Home at last with 30-day furloughs. It's a dream sealed with a kiss. After their furloughs, the men will be trained in new heavy bombers and then on to Japan. But now the only thoughts here are to sort their clothing and gear and head for home as soon as possible. These are the types of American youth who broke the back of the Luftwaffe. Mascots will have a rest, too, before they go on to war in the East. President Truman has appointed Judge Lewis Schwellenbach of Spokane, Washington, as Secretary of Labor, the first of 3 new cabinet nominations. Thomas C. Clark of Dallas, Texas, will succeed Francis Biddle as Attorney General in a shift which brings 3 Westerners to the President's official family. Mr. Clark has been Assistant Attorney General under Mr. Biddle. Representative Clinton Anderson of New Mexico becomes the nation's new Secretary of Agriculture, succeeding Claude Wickard. Secretary of State Edward R. Stettinius calls for full liberty for people throughout the world.
The 4 freedoms stated by President Roosevelt: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom from want, and freedom from fear, are, from the point of view of the United States, the fundamental freedoms which encompass all other rights and freedoms. The United States government will work actively and tirelessly, both for its own people and through the international organization for peoples generally, toward the protection and the promotion of these rights and freedoms.
Charles Ross, an old friend of President Truman, becomes White House press secretary. Mrs. Ross congratulates him. Steve Early looks over the commission with his successor. Mr. Ross undertakes one of the Capitol's most difficult jobs. One of the president's forward-looking acts is to seek the advice of former President Hoover in the administration of food relief to Europe. Arriving at the White House, Mr. Hoover is greeted by the president, who will benefit by Mr. Hoover's vast experience in food administration during World War I. A wise counselor in time of need. Prominent in the public eye is General Courtney Hodges, who arrives in his native Georgia after leading his victorious First Army through Germany. He receives an ovation from the citizens of Atlanta. One of the largest crowds in the city's history is on hand to honor Georgia's foremost soldier, the great leader of one of America's greatest fighting teams. Sensation of this year's baseball season is one-armed Pete Gray of the St. Louis Browns. Despite his handicap, Pete asks and gives no favors, standing right up there with the best of them. He played 2 years for Memphis and came to the big leagues on his own merits. His arm was lost when he was 6, but that didn't kill his spirit nor his dreams of making the big leagues. His batting average is good, though most of his hits are singles. Even when he grounds out, he gets the plaudits of the crowd. In left field, he really shines, and base runners are wary of the speed with which he discards his glove and throws to bases. His pluck and determination is an inspiration to all. Heroic dead of a combined Army and Marine force mark the grim battlefield of Okinawa, where one of the bloodiest engagements of the war is being fought. Thousands of Yanks have been wounded, and other thousands have sacrificed their lives to drive a fanatical foe from this vital base, the doorstep to Japan itself. A canine hero suffers a wound, spotting ambushed Japs, but collects a souvenir. The 62-mile island contains many airfields and naval bases valuable to our Pacific strategy. Admiral Nimitz congratulates our troops and watches the battle's progress. Along the Jap southern defense line between Naha, Shuri, and Yonabaru, the Yanks advanced slowly, facing one of the fiercest artillery barrages of the war. In a few hours, the enemy poured 10,000 shells into a front of only 9,000 yards. Each small advance is gained by sheer grit in the face of withering fire from a suicidal enemy being slowly hammered back into the hill. Powerful tank flamethrowers blast enemy caves on strategic Sawtooth Ridge near Naha. Newsreel, Signal Corps, and Marine cameramen risk their lives to film the furious action near Sugarloaf, Conical, and Chocolate Drop Hills, and other cave-entrenched Jap positions. The enemy defense line across the island is forced back and flanked at both ends by the dogged attack. Cautiously advancing on the firmly dug-in enemy, Yanks plant a heavy charge of dynamite. Tens of thousands of dead Japs litter the battlefield. In the southern part of the island, less than 25,000 of the original garrison of 80,000 Japs are cornered. Dummy tanks are left behind by the enemy, retreating into the defenses of Naha, under attack by our big guns. The going is brutal and our casualties are high, but Okinawa stands squarely across the road to Tokyo and the China coast. It's the next big step toward victory over Japan, a victory that can only be won by work, war bonds, and heroic sacrifice.